What up, what up, what up? It's Lamborghini underscore C. And I want to talk about something today. So, I was having a discussion with my lash stylist, slash, sometimes, um, sometimes like culture or counselor, because she gets to kind of listen to me talk. We actually kind of talk back and forth and have some good discussions while she's doing my lashes. But we were just talking the other day about like the struggles to take downtime. Like I had a situation this week. I got pretty sick. Thank goodness it was not COVID again. Or excuse me, the C word. Um, but it was, it was pretty bad. And I fought against taking the time off that I needed to actually get myself back together. And I mean, it really had me down. Like even today, I'm feeling so much better than I have like most of the week. But still not quite 100%. But I'll be there tomorrow, right? But oh my goodness, like I even kind of laughed at myself at a point because I was kind of internally arguing with myself about like taking time off. And I realized, like, what am I doing? Like, it's not like you have to go and request sick time. It's not like you have to go and ask anyone. Like, you're the boss. Like, just sit yourself down and get the much needed rest that you need and deserve. But I think that, as women, I think as entrepreneurs in general, whether male or female, and just in today's society, I think that sometimes we have this overwhelming nature, this kind of overachiever nature, which, if you talk to some therapists, um, some of them, have tied those types of behaviors to trauma, like to reactions to trauma. And I think that some of that is true. Some of it is just in general, like it's just how we grew up, right? I know for me, that is a part of it. And those are some of those behaviors that I have to unlearn just from my childhood and growing up because it was, it kind of wasn't acceptable to throw in the towel or to take the time off. Like I was laughing with, like I said, my my last text slash therapist the other day because we were talking about kind of like how our parents kind of brought us up. And I remember like even being in my like 30s or even like early 40s and like talking to my dad and if I was off work like telling him, oh yeah, I had the day off today, and he would be like, what, why did you have the day off? Like it's like, oh my god, like because I needed rest. And so that would always like trip me out. I would always kind of get a chuckle or giggle at that again, like even as an adult, it's like, I would struggle with taking that downtime, that time off. And it's so important because if you don't, things like what I experienced this week, you may be forced to take that time off, right? And it may be at a non-opportune time because you may have a lot on your plate or what have you, but that may be part of what drove you there is because you have so much going on. And I had to recognize in my downtime, in my time of napping through the day, like I really have been pushing it pretty hard, like since the end of November, um, or December of last year. Like, I mean, I've been pushing it hard, right? There's been a few new different business ventures. It's always different when you're having to learn something new, when you're thrust in the midst of maybe a new industry that you're having to learn, especially if you're having to like test and get licensed for it and all that kind of stuff. I think I talked about kind of that whole process, I think, in a previous live or what have you, kind of cramming 40 hours worth of training into 3 day, 2.5 to 3 days, and taking and passing the test, on the first try. I then later learned because I've since met people in the industry, and they've shared with me, oh man, it took me like 3 times to pass that test. I'm like, oh my god, no wonder why I was so stressed. Like I had no clue, right? But that was the amount of pressure that I put on myself, right? And so, um, like I've had other opportunities come about that I'm grateful for. And again, you have to go after those things. You can't, some of those opportunities you have to take them when they come, especially when it comes to networking or being invited into, new social groups and what have you, because those things can create other opportunities for you on, the business side of things, but they can have you running, right? And so that physically, just being physically drained as well as mentally drained. And then I've been working primarily with individuals on a different coast, like on the West Coast, and I actually live on the East Coast. So I've kind of been tailoring my schedule to make sure that I fit them and that I'm able to be available to them, and kind of working along with them. But the reality is to be able to manage all of the things that I have going on, I have found that I do have to still get up and do have to kind of jump in the game, like on a day-to-day basis, like during, close to my regular time that I would normally start if I were operating kind of, just on the East Coast, right? Because I do have other goals and things in place, like I've stepped it up with my workout regimen and things like that. And so start pretty early, and I end pretty late, you know. And then, when you end, like a lot of times I'll be down in my office till about 11 or 12, which, it's only like 8 or 9, like on the West Coast, right? So they're not feeling it as bad as I am. But then for me, because I've powered through and pushed through and found the energy to be able to keep going, like till that time, when I do like kind of quit for the night with working, then I usually am so amped up, or I start focusing on things like for my other business that I can do, whether it's like creating some videos or content or things like that. And before I know it, I'm up to like 2 or 3, maybe sleep for a few hours and then I'm back up like at 6 or 7. And so, that's just not healthy in any sense, especially if you do that over the course of several months, like consistently. And so I think my body just said, look, it's time you need to take a chill pill. That coupled with, again, in a season where we have some weather changes. We're getting ready to enter into spring. So some days it's a cold winter day. It can be in the 20s or early 30s, or it can be, like over 50 degrees one day. So I'm sure all of those factors played a part into just me needing to sit down and take a few days and take some rest. But what was more disturbing to me, just retrospectively, is just the struggle that I went through mentally and allowing myself to really take the downtime that I needed to take. And I think so many of us do that. Again, I think, as entrepreneurs, but also I will recognize I experienced it too when I was in corporate America too. And probably sometimes that much more. Like the pressure, I think what was different this time around is because I felt like in corporate America, there was always like an implicit pressure, right, from external, um, avenues, whether it was a boss or maybe you had, like when you're in kind of those management executive type roles, you have like whole departments looking for you or like reporting up to you, and they're looking for your coaching and guidance. So it's like if I don't show up, like, they need to know what to do, or I may owe them some things or some direction to be able to help them progress on their projects. um, and so you kind of feel accountable, for the individuals that you may have reporting to you. So you kind of you kind of want to be there for them, right? So you kind of put those pressures on yourself to show up as well. And so again, this time it was a little bit different because one, I've built a pretty good team, and I'm really happy in the short amount of time that I've been able to, make some tweaks to that team and understand everyone's skill sets. But the reality is that they were able to carry on without me, having to be like present every step of the way, which I'm so grateful and thankful for. And then, on the other hand, with, one of the other businesses, like I really just had to take, like I said, the time away because I couldn't, I don't know, like it was hard for me. I still, again, I fought it. I kept trying to have, like, even with my team, with the firm, the consulting firm, trying to have like Zoom conference meetings. And I just, like, I would feel so sick. Like I just couldn't, that was a struggle to kind of get through those. And so that's when I realized, what, I kind of got to shut it down for the most part. And so I did. And so I'm so grateful and thankful that I did. And even just, like yesterday, just kind of chilled at the house, but did get some things done. Of course, I had to multitask, but yeah, like I said, this week I'm sure I'll be feeling a lot better, which is going to be imperative because I do have a pretty big week in the upcoming weeks that's going to be challenging, just with travel, with more networking, which is always, sometimes draining for me as an introvert. I always tell people I'm an introvert who's a forced extrovert for business. And so that is draining. I don't think people realize if they're not introverts themselves. I think they underestimate like what kind of goes into that, like really putting yourself out there. If you're not the person that's always trying to be out on scene, um and especially if you go into like extreme networking situations, which I will be in the next couple of weeks. And by that I mean these are environments where, and again, it's interesting because, most of the people that I will be engaging with, 9 times out of 10, they themselves are business owners, like they're entrepreneurs themselves. Um, and a few corporate heads or whatever will be there, but still, it's us pushing ourselves. It's our drive, right? And not, necessarily the powers that be, but it's extreme from the standpoint where, again, you have kind of a tightly packed agenda from like breakfast, like you're scheduled from breakfast throughout the day, um, of seminars, but then having meetings, which you want to have. You want to have those individual connections or meetings because those are business opportunities, like throughout the day with people where you're having those one on ones. And then, of course, there'll be, networking and cocktail hour and drinks or, whatever else, after hours, into the night, which creates more opportunities for networking and bonding and really, getting to learn about people's businesses or industries to see how you guys might be able to mesh and help each other or work together. And so those things are very important. They are. And so over the years I've come to, again, just kind of learn myself and how I am in those settings and the things that I need and the breaks, sometimes needing to take breaks. And so I've put some measures in place that I think will help me be able to to be able to be able to make those good connections and do well and still, to make sure that I'm taking care of myself at the end of the day also, so that I don't, end up being so drained when I walk away from such a great event. But again, like I just think that it's so important for us to just check in with ourselves and really assess like how we're doing, and recognize when we do need to take a rest or a break, or maybe where we need to make some adjustments or changes, right? So for many of us, especially like women, um, we put so much pressure on ourselves just managing home life, managing like relationships, especially like with romantic relationships, especially being, if you're a businesswoman, you want to make sure that you are um, creating those opportunities or that quality time for you and your partner, and that it's not just all business, right? Because that's when resentment sets in. And your spouse or your partner can feel like the business is taking time away from you guys, so you have to manage that as well. In that, in that same vein, especially with children. I don't have children, so I don't haven't had to manage that, in the process as well. But again, I think that, that coupled with, again, there's certain, like, social roles and standards that we try to live up to as well. With making sure that we maintain our homes, making sure that we're on top of things there. So there's all these other pressures, and that's where I think that we have to help ourselves, and know when to say when. And sometimes it might be time to bring in some additional resources or help, for the home as well. Whether that is having somebody come in that can help with laundry, or outsourcing some help to have someone come in and clean, and what have you. Or maybe, getting an agreement with your partner that they share some more of those responsibilities as well. But I'm telling you, this was quite a doozy. But yeah, I encourage you guys, make sure that you're taking that time for self-care and evaluation, because you want to be at your best, right? And if you're only operating at 20%, in some respects, you might as well not even be operating. And so most of the time, if you're upfront with people, even if you have to, like, back out of certain situations, the key is just making sure that you give people a heads up and some advance notice if possible, that, hey, I'm not going to be able to make it to that event. I actually had to back out of an event Friday. Like, I couldn't do it. Like, there's no way I would have been able to make it to that event. And then the networking, being in everybody's face, that just would have been a disaster. And so, again, you find that people are understanding, right? If you're able to just give them the heads up and let them know ahead of time that, hey, um, something came up, or being honest with them, hey, I'm under the weather. I'm not going to be able to attend your event today, but, I definitely would love to make it to the next one. And so make sure that you're gentle with yourself and that you give yourself that time to just have those down moments so that you can relax. Again, some of it isn't always just physical, some of it is more mental. Like, I think the mental exhaustion is even worse than physical at times. Sometimes I think in today's society, especially with social media, and because so many of us use it with regards to marketing for our businesses and things, we find we're on there all the time, and you're constantly getting alerts. One of the things that I started to do before this, like, I got to a point where, again, because there's people or business associates that are on different time zones, like, and some, some of these folks, oh my god, they would have my phone buzzing, my work phone, till like 12, 1 o'clock, right? And beyond sometimes. And so I've gotten to the point where I've just had to start putting that phone on what is it? On pilot mode or what have you. I have to just turn it off at night, on plane mode, so that, yeah, airplane mode, just so that I can, I can make sure I'm truly resting and getting the the sleep that I need, without having to be up and down, or hearing all the prompts, wondering, which phone it is or what have you. And so that has helped, tremendously. So I definitely will continue to do that. But I definitely will be putting some other measures in place, and just kind of, policing myself a little bit with my time, and making sure that I am, you know, making sure that I am my best self, and that I am, taking the time out for me and taking the rest that I need and breaks during the day. I'm really excited that, we are entering spring. So here soon, the weather is going to be nice, and it's going to be at a point where I will be able to take my walks during the day. I love my walks outside. Like, midday, I'll go walk for about an hour, hour and a half. And that is going to be, like, so rejuvenating for me. And I think that's going to make so much of a difference for my life. And so I'm excited about this spring and summer with business, about being able to get back. I'll be spending more time in the warmer climates too, and kind of back and forth. And so I'm really, really excited about that. But I just wanted to hop on, just to bring awareness that, like, hey, it's okay for you to take some time off. Like if you need to, you actually need to make sure that you have those intervals of, having the time off and having the breaks. For goodness sake, like as you're growing up and you're in school, they have these little breaks for a reason. Like I know we're approaching spring break for many of the colleges and universities, as well as, the school age kids that will be on spring break. But yeah, you shouldn't feel guilty about taking time off or stepping away from your business so that you can take care of you. Because without you, guess what? There is no business. Your employees or your contractors, they won't have anything to come to, you know, if you go away. And so you need to make sure, one, that you are working with them and giving them an opportunity to increase their skill set, that you're also giving them an opportunity to exercise their judgment, and creating a culture of ownership in the projects that they're working on, and ownership and pride in your business and organization. You should have such a culture of camaraderie and such a culture of respect, and one that cultivates growth within your organization and your team, that they feel inspired and driven to help see the company grow, so that even if you do have to step aside, they are still going to continue to give their best. They're going to continue to, to come up with ideas. I was touched this week, like one of my contractors I have working on a project, actually, he shared with me that he was looking for some additional resources to be able to maybe upskill some of the newer training that we have, that we just uploaded into our LMS system. And so that really, that touched me because I didn't even ask him to go do that. And so, he kind of, again, on his own, um, went after that. And I think a large part of that is because I think that I've done, a pretty decent job in just making sure, one, that I understand everybody's skill set. So I've tried to put them in roles that actually exemplify their skills, but also give them an opportunity to grow and nurture those skills. And then, I have contractors, they're independent contractors that work for me. And so I treat them all as business owners. They're all pretty young. And so, my vision is that they will begin to become astute business people themselves, right? And and they'll be able to, provide services even to other companies, and really, build up, quite an opportunity for themselves as they begin to grow and build their skills, within their respective roles. And so I think that being able to give people that autonomy to be creative, but helping them understand the goals so that they will stay on task and not, get too far off, is key, when managing folks, whether it is direct employees or contractors that you have doing work for you, because you will find that, again, they will begin to look at pain points, or they will begin to identify areas that can be improved, and they'll start bringing those things to you, and they'll start bringing suggestions or new software that, you guys should try or begin to implement within your organization. And some of it will provide cost savings, and so those things will be mutually beneficial. And so, again, just, work on some of the foundational things within your organization so that it makes it less scary when you do have to step away, and when you do have to take that time off, or take a few days away. um, you won't have to worry about things continuing on as they should. So, again, this is Lamborghini C coming at you again, just to remind you to make sure you're taking care of you. And don't guilt yourself out of taking the necessary time off that you need. Have a good day, guys, and have a greater week. Bye.